Welcome to Norway. In the next 20 minutes, we aren't just looking at a map, we are diving deep into the soul of the Norse. From the brutal beauty of the Lofoten Islands to the billion-dollar art museums of Oslo, from the roar of the Atlantic Ocean at the end of the world to the absolute silence of the Arctic tundra, we will cover the overall view, the history, the geography, the economy that makes it one of the richest nations on Earth, and the culture that keeps its people happy despite the dark winters. Buckle up, we are going north. Rolling hills, dense cities, ancient farmlands. Then look at Norway. It looks like a spine that has broken through the skin of the continent. Norway is long, extremely long, stretching over 1,100 miles from the mild south to the frozen North Cape. It is a country of jagged edges. If you straightened out its coastline, including all the fjords and islands, it would circle the globe 2.5 times. They are scars from the Ice Age. Glaciers to miles thick scraped the earth down to the bedrock, then retreated, filling the valleys with seawater. The result? Cliffs that rise 3,000 feet straight out of the water. The weather? Unpredictable. The west coast gets rain, lots of it. Bergen is one of the wettest cities in Europe. Locals don't use umbrellas, they accept the wet. But travel east, over the central mountain spine, and you find dry, cold winters and surprisingly warm summers. This geography isolated the country for centuries. Villages were separated by mountains and sea. This isolation created a fiercely independent people. You don't rely on the neighbor on the other side of the mountain. You rely on yourself. And that self-reliance is the key to the Norwegian soul. You cannot mention Norway without the Vikings. But let's clear up the myth. They weren't just horn-helmeted barbarians. They were explorers, traders, and surprisingly hygienic settlers. The Viking Age began around 793 AD with the raid on Lindisfarne in England. But for the Norwegians, the story is different. While the Danes raided France and England, the Norwegians looked west. They sailed across the North Atlantic. They settled Iceland. They colonized Greenland. And around the year 1000, a Norseman named Leif Erikson landed in North America, Vinland, nearly 500 years before Columbus ever got lost. Norway unified under a single king, Harald Fairhair, around 872. But the Golden Age didn't last. After a plague wiped out half the population in the 14th century, Norway entered a long, dark period of foreign rule. First, it was the Kalmar Union with Denmark. Then, after the Napoleonic Wars, Denmark handed Norway to Sweden. Norwegians hated this. They didn't vote for it. So, in 1814, they did something radical. They wrote their own constitution at Eidsvoll, one of the most democratic of its time. They declared independence, even though they were forced into a union with Sweden. That union lasted until 1905. And how did Norway gain full independence? Peacefully, through a referendum. The people voted to dissolve the union, and they invited a Danish prince to be their king. King Håkon VII took the throne, and Norway was finally, truly, its own nation. That independence was tested in 1940. Norway tried to stay neutral in World War II, but Nazi Germany wanted the ice-free port of Narvik for iron ore shipments. The invasion came on April the 9th. The German cruiser Blcher sailed into the Oslofjord, expecting easy passage. They were wrong. An ancient fortress, manned by raw recruits, fired torpedoes and cannons. The Blcher sank. This delay allowed the Norwegian king and government to escape. For 5 years, Norway suffered under occupation. But then came the miracle. In 1969, a fisherman dragged a pipe across the bottom of the North Sea. Something sticky came up. Overnight, Norway went from a nation of fishermen and farmers to one of the wealthiest nations in history. But unlike other oil-rich countries, Norway did something incredibly smart. They created the government pension fund global, known as the Oil Fund. Instead of spending the oil money on tax cuts or immediate luxuries, they invested it. Today, that fund is worth over $1.4 trillion. That's nearly $250,000 for every single Norwegian citizen. They save for the future. So, what does that money buy? It buys trust. Norway operates on the Nordic model. High taxes, yes, but in return, free healthcare, free university education, for everyone, including international students in many cases, paid parental leave, that can last nearly a year. and a robust pension. But the secret isn't just the money, it is the social contract. Norwegians trust their government. They trust the police. They trust strangers. You will see strollers parked outside cafes with babies sleeping inside while the parents drink coffee. That is not neglect. That is a cultural assumption that the world is safe. Look at their prison system. At Halden Prison, guards don't carry weapons. Prisoners have kitchens, record studios, and views of the forest. Why? Because the Norwegian belief is that prison is for rehabilitation, not revenge. The result? Norway has one of the lowest recidivism, reoffending, rates in the world, around 20%, compared to 60% in the US. It is a law, actually, a law called the Allemannsretten, everyman's right. You are allowed to camp, hike, and walk on any uncultivated land, public or private, as long as you leave no trace. The mountains are a public good. Let's visit the cities. Oslo, the capital. It has transformed from a boring, gray city into a foodie and architecture destination. The Opera House, you can walk on its roof. The new Munch Museum, towering like a glass giant, housing the Scream. But Oslo is expensive. A beer costs $12, a hot dog $7, but locals don't mind because the wages match the cost. Then you have Bergen, the gateway to the fjords. It rains 240 days a year there, so when the sun comes out, the entire city drops everything and goes outside. Take the FLIBANEN funicular up the mountain for the view of the 7 fjords. Disappears for 2 months, the polar night, but the sky lights up with the aurora borealis. In summer, the midnight sun means daylight 24/7. People play golf at 2 a.m. now. Let's be honest. Norwegian cuisine has a reputation. It's functional. The classic dish is frikl, mutton and cabbage boiled for hours. It is delicious, but it is brown. They also love brunost, brown cheese. It is caramelized whey. It tastes like salty, tangy toffee. They put it on waffles or bread. And a national obsession, tacos. Specifically, Friday night tacos, fredagstaco. It is a national ritual. The whole family gathers to eat cheap, Mexican-inspired food every Friday. It's bizarre, but it works. One final quirk, paying for things. Norway is likely the first cashless society on Earth. You will almost never see physical cash. Everything, from buying a pack of gum to a BMW, is done by card or mobile app, VIPs. Even the street vendors take cards. But it isn't all perfect fjords and happy oil money. Norway has struggles. The darkness. The long polar nights cause seasonal depression, known as the winter blues. Vitamin D deficiency is real. Suicide rates, while lower than many places, spike in the winter months. Then there is the cost of living. While the wages are high, buying a house in Oslo requires immense wealth or family help, and the isolation can be crushing for immigrants. Norwegians are polite, but they are not warm. You can live next to a Norwegian for 10 years and never have them invite you for dinner unless you break the ice first. And finally, the relationship with the European Union. Norway has said no to joining the EU, twice, in 1972 and 1994. They remain outside, controlling their own fishing waters and farms, but they still pay into the EU budget to access the single market. It's a complicated, often tense, relationship. So, what is the overall view of Norway? It is a land of extremes. Extreme beauty, extreme weather, and extreme wealth. It is a country that looked at the oil boom and chose the long game, saving for the future instead of partying in the present. It is a culture built on dunad, voluntary community work, and kos, the art of cozy, simple togetherness. Norway proves that you don't need to be the loudest country in the room to be the most successful. You just need a clear head, warm wool sweater, and respect for the wild. Whether you are chasing the northern lights, hiking the Pulpit Rock, or just eating a hot dog at a gas station in the rain, Norway leaves a mark on you. It whispers the old Viking truth: the weather will try to kill you, but surviving it makes you alive. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this overview, check out the links for our deep dive on the Lofoten Islands. And as they say in Norwegian, ha det bra, take care.